Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our scholarly examination of Amazing Adventures featuring War of the Worlds, starring Killraven. If you remember the past 5 issues, they had changed the title from Amazing Adventures featuring Killraven. But I guess the sales weren't that good, so they went back to the War of the Worlds, because they figured at least people who know the book, the H.G. Wells book, might pick it up. So kind of weird that they went back to that title, even though it's obviously Killraven's the star. And yeah, this is about the Martians and War of the Worlds, but it's very different from the book. It's really all about Killraven. So let's check these out. Number 35. We got a cover by P. Craig Russell. And it's not very good by his standards. I'm sure it's, compared to most comic covers at the time, it was probably better than most, or at least on par. But yeah, for P. Craig Russell, I don't know what happened these 2 months, where maybe he had a death in the family, maybe he was very busy with something, but he only does layouts in both of these issues. So obviously he was busy with something else. And even the covers reflect that, even though he draws them, not his best work. Kind of dashed off. So this is a standalone issue, The 24-Hour Man. Of course, Don McGregor's our author, P. Craig Russell layouts, and the pencils are by Keith Giffen, and the inks are by Jack Abel. And the late lamented Keith Giffen, he drew in so many styles over his career. He was a chameleon. A lot of his styles basically were ripping off other artists, but he always added his own little flavor to it. Sometimes he actually literally just swiped certain artists like Jose Munoz, and but he'd also add something else that was, Keith Giffen. But yeah, he changes so much over the years. Every 7 years, he just reinvent himself. But this is his mid-70s Marvel style, basically his first style. This is when he started. And it was a really good, I don't know how to describe it. Pretty much Marvel house style, but definitely 70s house style. Like Jim Starlin and maybe even a little P. Craig Russell. All those kind of better artists. Frank Brunner. He was trying to do that, but also adding his own little flavor to the stew. And Jack Abel, we've talked about on this channel. I've kind of dissed him before, but I gotta say, his inks are pretty nice in this issue. I almost feel like these guys knew that they were subbing for P. Craig Russell, and they had to do their best. They couldn't just turn in some hack work. It's like, hey man, P. Craig Russell just drew the last issue, and we gotta up our game. So this art's pretty decent. Of course, the P. Craig Russell layouts, it's got that great storytelling and, great panelology that P. Craig Russell is known for. So, Killraven and his Fremen, I'm thinking of Dune, his Freemen, they're in Atlanta, Georgia now. And, of course, Don McGregor has to make some stupid reference to Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler. He just can't help himself, that guy. But otherwise, it's decent writing, but he always has to do these goofy pop culture references. So they come upon this woman, and she's kneeling before this corpse with this weird armor. The woman is ranting like a crazy person, just saying all this crazy stuff. They have no idea what she's talking about. See, that's a pretty nice panel there. This one too. So she runs away. They follow her into the cemetery. And all of a sudden, this giant serpent creature is right in front of her. Oh, I'm sorry, I should mention. So almost all the captions are a story about this guy, Emmanuel. We don't see Emmanuel, but it's Emmanuel commenting on all of the things he's watching them from somewhere. And this is Emmanuel's mother. And basically what we find out from his captions is that this serpent is his father. Grath impregnated this woman 9 months ago, and at midnight, she gave birth to Emmanuel. And he only has 24 hours to live, so he matures, grows old, and dies in 24 hours. So Killraven and his freemen start fighting the serpent, trying to rescue the woman. And Emmanuel is just fixated on Carmilla Frost because she's the only female there. The serpent, Grath, he shoots these quills out of his forehead, almost kills Michelle. And from Emmanuel's narration, we realize that he has this connection to Grath. Like when they hurt him with their guns, he feels it. He draws energy from Grath. And I think vice versa. He needs Grath to live. Or he might die. So he pops up and he grabs Carmilla. And he shoots his own quills out of his arm. Because he's his father's son, you know. He shoots these quills, fends off the freeman. And basically kind of forces himself on Carmilla. But he's like a naive, he's only lived 7 hours, even though he's a full-grown man. He doesn't quite get it. He's just like, yes, I should kiss her because I want her to procreate and continue my race, a race of one. And, he seeks tenderness, but he finds anger in its stead. And of course, Carmilla's like, get the fuck off me. She's fighting him off. Of course, Michelle is seeing this and he's freaking out. So he grabs her and runs off. Michelle is in pursuit. He's so distracted by chasing them, Grath almost kills him, and Killraven saves him, gets him out of harm's way. And then all of a sudden, Grath disappears. Just poof. Out of existence. So they're on the trail, trying to find Carmilla and rescue her. It's kind of an interesting little bit of dialogue. Michelle is talking about how ever since Hawk died, that he hasn't been as, hopeful about this war against the Martians. He always thought that they were like the heroes that couldn't be beat. And now he realizes, no, we might not win this war. We could all be killed. Killraven's hope is unflappable, though. He's like, they can't defeat us. But Michelle's like, well, I used to think that too, Killraven. But I don't really anymore. I'm just living for Carmilla now. My love for Carmilla. As long as I can. So they pass another one of these corpses. The 24-hour man corpses. Because we find out basically that... So Grath mates with a human woman every 9 months or so. They give birth to this 24-hour man, which doesn't make any sense why the serpent and a human woman would give birth to this green-skinned humanoid. And they live for 24 hours, and then during that 24 hours, that version, because they all share memories, so it is almost like a race, that 24-hour man has to find a mate for Grath to continue the race. As they're looking for her, we see that, Emmanuel's hiding with Carmilla. He's got his hand over her mouth so she can't call out for help. That's a pretty nice Jack Abel inking. All these lines. He reminds me of a less organic John Totalman. It's like a lot of fine lines there. So he's trying to explain himself to Carmilla about how he really has to breed her with Grath or his race can't continue. So that's why he doesn't want to be, this bully, but he's got to. It's his race's survival depends on it. So then Killraven shows up and attacks Emmanuel. Emmanuel, I guess, is super strong. He just lifts up Killraven like a rag doll and throws him through this window. Meanwhile, Michelle is pumping crossbow bolts into Grath's head with seemingly no effect. It's interesting how P. Craig Russell is just doing the layouts, but his layouts are so distinctive. You can totally tell these are P. Craig Russell layouts. The little panels. Not doing the panel gutters sometimes. And then, I gotta admit, guys, I read this twice last night after reading it, 20 years ago for the first time. I really don't know what the hell's going on in this comic. I'm doing my best to explain what I'm reading. Like them poofing out of existence every now and then and coming back. Don McGregor really doesn't explain why. And then all of a sudden, Emmanuel, I don't know, it looks like he's burning up. But I do love these two panels. This is a Keith Giffen trick he used to do in the mid-'70s. He did this in The Defenders. He was some villain, I can't remember his name right now. This kind of great psychedelic effect he does. It's pretty groovy. It's pretty cool looking. That was in his bag of tricks back then. He did it a few times. And then he kind of poofs out of existence again. And Grath does again. And really no explanation. Don McGregor doesn't really explain it well. This is weird. Carmilla is basically like, I could not hate him. I was overwhelmed by the vulnerability of his position. But I mean, who knows how long these 24-hour men have been grabbing women and basically they're raped by this giant serpent and then held for 9 months in captivity as the baby grows within them so they can give birth to this baby. It's just weird that she's kind of like, oh, I kind of feel sorry for the guys. Like, no, this is pretty monstrous what they've been doing. Also, Killraven says something about how he felt a strange kinship to Emmanuel, as if we share a common curse. And yet, Don McGregor doesn't even spend a caption really explaining why he feels that way. So all these things that, like, Don McGregor was so worried about all of his fancy diction and stuff, but just didn't explain the story very well. I know I'm not that bright, so I could have been missing it, but literally, I read this comic a couple times, and no, it doesn't seem like there's any explanation. I haven't even mentioned this, too. This is just a silly thing. Time continuity sequence. And it's just a clock that's been going the whole issue. Not to really any good dramatic effect. I could see if it was counting down up to 24, so you'd know the guy was about to die. But it doesn't. So now, inexplicably, Grath appears with Emmanuel riding him. And we just saw him kind of phase out and burn out. I don't know what's going on. Once again, Killraven attacks him. Seems to have a little better luck this time. And Carmilla is pumping rounds from her laser blaster into Grath's head. And it doesn't seem to be having much effect. And she runs out of ammo. But then, eventually, sorry, these pages are sticky. Grath rises to his full height, and then he falls down dead. So he's just delayed. And then I guess because he has that connection with Emmanuel, Emmanuel is, his sorrow is immense, he says, because it's his father. And I kind of like this face here. And he fades away to nothing without Grat's energies feeding him. But man, these rainy panels are pretty nice. This one especially, Jack Abel is doing such fine line work on that. That's rare to see inking like that. All we see is the armor of Emmanuel, like he's literally just blinked out of existence before the 24 hours are up. And then they see the mother again. And she's ranting almost the same thing she's ranting earlier. It's kind of weird. And this panel is almost like that last panel when we see her insane eyeball. And then at the very end, Old Skull says, Mr. Killraven, what would have happened if Emmanuel had himself a child and it was a daughter? I was just like, what if, Old Skull? I mean, this is such nonsense. Would that matter? I don't know. I don't get it at all. Because it's not like Emmanuel was making his own child. Graf is. So, yeah, if it was a daughter. So there's just a lot of stuff in this where maybe Don McGregor was like, yeah, P. Greg Russell isn't drawing this issue. I'm not going to give it my all. Because these fill-in artists are drawing it. But a lot of stuff isn't explained in this. And it just seems like if Don McGregor did a second pass over the script, he could have just been like, oh, I'll put in one caption here just to explain this shit. Like, what's going on? But he doesn't. And so it's kind of a bunch of gobbledygook. It's well-written gobbledygook. You know, Don McGregor's a good writer, but not in the sense of storytelling in this issue where there's a lot of unanswered things about this issue. And like I said, I'm willing to admit I'm a moron who doesn't get it, but I think he dropped the ball. We're up to number 36 here. This is a particularly subpar P. Greg Russell cover. Look at that face. That's terrible. I'm sorry. You know I love P. Greg Russell. If you watch this channel before, I've jizzed all over his art many a time, but this is pretty bad. So this issue, once again, Don McGregor writing, P. Greg Russell layouts, but all the finished art, pencils and inks by Sonny Trinidad. I believe he's one of the Filipino artists who came over in the 70s. And this looks pretty good to me. It seems like Sonny Trinidad's doing his best to try to draw as much like P. Greg Russell as he can. Then again, maybe P. Greg Russell's layouts weren't necessarily just layouts. Maybe he did some loose pencils too. So I don't know, because some of this looks like P. Greg Russell, just like on a bad day. So this one's called Red Dust Legacy. And we start off, Killraven's on Mars. He's at the Nix Olympia volcano. And he's kneeling in the red Martian dust. And he's not quite sure what the hell's going on. We see him, there's some nice stuff. Look at this panel, for example. This looks like P. Greg Russell's sketchbooks. And it looks pretty good, even though you can tell it's not like totally P. Greg Russell. But it's definitely got that flavor. I don't know, it's pretty good looking to me, this art. So it seems like not only is he on Mars, but he has all the knowledge of being a Martian. Because I think we've talked about this before, or I know we have, but I don't know if you remember. Killraven can enter the minds of Martians. Every now and then, it's haphazard. He has no control over it. So he's walking through Mars and he seems to know what's going on, you know. And then all of a sudden, these giant turtles show up and the Martians are riding them. It's almost like they're their battle tanks or something. And he throws one of his shuriken stars and it goes right through them. They're just phantasms. And then all of a sudden they all disappear. He's alone again on the surface of Mars. Like that panel. Pretty good stuff. And then, now we're in Georgia. And Killraven wakes up, basically. It was kind of one of his little visions he has. Michelle knows about his vision, so he's like, whoa, you were gone for a long time there, Killraven. And he says, hey, have a drink. You look a little dazed. And Killraven looks like he, I don't know, drinks something disgusting. He's like, Grr. And he says, where do you get this wretched mead, Michelle? And Michelle says, the same place you keep finding to replace those silver stars of yours. Which is kind of funny, because that is like an unanswered fanboy concern in this comic. Killraven's throwing those stars all the time. He's only got a few in his chest. You can see them. That's part of his costume. But somewhere in this apocalyptic wasteland, he keeps replenishing them. And I'm sure some fanboys wrote in saying, you know, Mr. McGregor, please explain this. But Don McGregor just turns it into a funny joke and to dismiss it. I kind of like that idea. Killraven has a little talk with Old Skull, talking about Hawk. See, there you can tell it's not P. Greg Russell. It's definitely another artist. But some of the stuff is pretty close, like that face right there. So now we have a little cutaway to Yellowstone Park, and that's where the High Overlord resides. He's like the head honcho of the Martian invasion. And he's talking to Death Raven, who is Killraven's brother. But from their dialogue, we realize that he's been totally brainwashed, and he's totally in service to the Martians. And he's basically like, yeah, your brother's on his way here. And Death Raven is like, oh, I'll take care of him for you. So a little foreshadowing. Now we cut away again to this, at first, inexplicable scene. We see a young Martian sliding through crimson dust, and an old Martian glides towards him. The young Martian was born on Earth after the invasion. He's never seen his homeworld. And so there's a lot of Martians like that. So they kind of built this holographic playground where young Martians who've never been to Mars, though they have the yearning to see their homeland, they can go and almost experience what it's like on Mars. And it seems like this is a comment on the generation gap. So the old Martian is kind of debating the young Martian. And the young Martian, almost like a youngster in the 70s, is questioning and just like, why must we kill all the humans? Why is this necessary? And the old Martian's just like, that's the way it is. We have to secure our future. So they go to this birthing chamber. This compound that they're in is like the main birthing center for the Martians on Earth. And I guess we find out how Martians replicate. They're asexual. And at a certain time in their life, a Martian will grow like a tumor, like a big growth. And they extract it when it's ready. And they put it in an incubation chamber. Kind of an immunization process. So now we cut back to Killraven and his dudes. They're right outside that birthing center where those two Martians are debating. And Killraven decides to attack it. Yeah, this is when comics were 17 pages. Lots of ads in these Marvel comics from the mid-70s. So now we're back with the old and young Martian. And it's kind of interesting how the young Martians who were born on Earth, they've almost gone native. You know, like the old Martian recognizes things and the young Martian's like, they talk with their tentacles just like the humans do. You know, when they get excited, they wave their tentacles around. And apparently they feel more emotions. Martians are kind of just like emotionless. And this young kid seems to have some emotions. He seems to have some kind of empathy. sympathy for the humans almost. So Killraven and his Freeman break into the compound, and they find the incubation chamber with all these little baby Martians. And Killraven's just like, all right, let's start killing all of them, guys. And Carmilla is like, listen, I followed you because your strategic brilliance, you're great at fighting the Martians. I followed you blindly. No way you're doing this. This is inhuman. This is just butchery. He's like, these are going to grow up to be our enemies. So it turns into this huge debate. And it's almost like she pulls her sword on Killraven. She's like, you are not going to do this. You are not going to massacre these little babies. And Michelle, of course, is just like, shit, it's my girlfriend and my best friend of all time. And they're at each other's throats. What the fuck am I going to do? So they're arguing about this, but then the point becomes moot. Because they're about to come to blows. She's got her blade out. She's jumping at him. But then the adult Martians show up. And Killraven even says, well, I don't have time to kill them now. We just got to get the fuck out of here and fight our way out. So I guess you win. And they go into that holographic Martian landscape. And it's not just holographic, like everything is similar, like even the gravity. They've changed the gravity in this chamber. So Killraven and the Freeman are leaping around because, Mars has a lower gravity than we have. And the young and old Martian are watching them. And the turtles show up with the Martians riding them, just like from Killraven's dream. Or vision, I should say. And this time, though, Killraven throws his little stars, and they don't just pass through him. It kills this Martian. And I guess the young Martian is he wants to observe closer, so he's coming up. Killraven just thinks he's another enemy, even though the young Martian almost seems to have been stating that, like, I'm kind of on the human side. Almost like like some hippie who's against the Vietnam War. And Killraven doesn't know. He throws one of his stars and cuts off his tentacle. And then they hop away, the Freemen. So the old Martian leads the young Martian back into the compound. And I don't know if it was due to the fighting, but the glass on all the hibernation chambers has been cracked, and all the babies have died. So it's like this horrible massacre of all these little babies. And they get outside, our Freemen, and Killraven says he's gone back into the Martian's mind. The Martian who came at us. And you were right, woman. We have lost more than we have won. A defeat in victory. And we see this young Martian with his lopped off tentacle. And, he saw how the humans killed all those babies. And now he does not like the humans anymore. He now has the ability to hate. So I don't know if we see him later, if this little guy's going to get revenge or try to, but kind of interesting. Definitely a lot more depth than your average Marvel comic of the day, where superhero and supervillain would just fight for 10 pages and slug it out, And not bad art. Sonny Trinidad does a pretty good deal. Pretty good job. Nobody's P. Craig Russell, but does pretty good. So there you have it, guys. Amazing Adventures number 35 and number 36. And hope you enjoyed looking at them. Very interesting seeing two different artists try to work over P. Craig Russell's layouts and do the best job they can. And but I gotta say, I don't know what the hell Don McGregor how much acid he was taking that month. This one's a lot more coherent, and I kind of get it. Still, a lot of stuff could have been explained better. And very simply, with just a few captions here and there. It was like, okay, it's very clear now. But then again, I'm a little drunk tonight. I was always happy to get drunk because these were so confusing. I was like, that's all they deserve. They don't deserve my clearest head. Because I really can't explain this first one. I really don't know what the fuck's going on. But I guess that's it for tonight's video. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.